Chapter 1. In this chapter, several storylines are introduced. The chapter begins with Sicilian undertaker Amerigo Bonacera witnessing his daughter being assaulted and almost raped by two young men who belong to powerful families. However, these men go free due to their political connections. Distraught and seeking justice, Bonacera decides to approach Don Corleone for help. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, the famous singer Johnny Fontana is facing troubles in his personal life as his wife is cheating on him. Johnny decides to return to New York to seek support from his godfather, Don Corleone. Another character, Nazarene the Baker, approaches Don Corleone to request assistance in obtaining American citizenship for his daughter's fiancé. All three individuals, Bonacera, Fontana, and Nazarene, are invited to Don Corleone's daughter's wedding, where they plan to present their cases and plead for help. The story then shifts to the wedding day of Connie Corleone, Don Corleone's daughter, which takes place in August 1945 at his Long Beach, Long Island home. Don Corleone's three sons, Sonny, Fredo, and Michael, are present at the wedding. Michael, who had volunteered as a Marine during World War I and now attends Dartmouth College, returns home solely for his sister's wedding. He sits apart from his family at a table with his fiancée, Kay Adams. During the wedding reception, the FBI arrives and records the license plate numbers of all the cars outside the gates, causing Sonny to lose his temper. However, Don Corleone remains calm and unaffected by their presence. Connie is marrying Carlo Rizzi, a man disapproved of by her father. While the Corleone family is Sicilian, Carlo is half Sicilian and half Northern Italian. It becomes apparent that Carlo may have married Connie for her family connections and wealth. Sonny, despite being married himself, sneaks away with the maid of honor. Don Corleone's lawyer and advisor, Tom Hogan, observes the wedding from inside Don Corleone's office. Don Corleone joins him, and they review the list of people seeking his help. The first supplicant, Nazarene, is granted his request to secure American citizenship for his daughter's fiancé. Next, Anthony Coppola is given $500 to start a pizzeria. Luca Brasi, a loyal but unapproved associate, is granted an audience with Don Corleone. Outside, Kay Adams notices Luca Brasi's intense expression and questions Michael about him. Michael reveals to Kay that Luca is a hitman and begins to disclose his father's involvement in organized crime. Luca's departure brings relief to Don Corleone, who acknowledges Luca's loyalty but also recognizes his dangerous nature. Amerigo Bonacera approaches Don Corleone next, requesting the murder of the men who assaulted his daughter. Don Corleone is angered by Bonacera's sudden plea, as Bonacera had always avoided owing him any debts in the past. After Bonacera pledges his loyalty, the Don agrees to have a few men severely beat the offenders. Don Corleone then becomes disappointed with Sonny's lack of attention and starts considering other options for who could take over the family business. Johnny Fontana arrives at the wedding and performs a few songs. He later asks to speak with Don Corleone privately and confesses his marital troubles and inability to sing anymore. Johnny seeks help in securing a role in a movie. Don Corleone scolds Johnny for allowing women to control him and offers to intervene with the studio executive blocking his career. He instructs Johnny to stay in his house for a month. After Johnny leaves, Tom and Don Corleone discuss other matters, including a disagreement with Virgil Sollazzo over the narcotics business and the declining health of Genco Abendondo, the Don's longtime advisor. Michael shares with Kay the story of how his father helped Johnny Fontana by forcefully releasing him from a contract at gunpoint, leading to Johnny's success. However, Michael reveals that Johnny's career is now declining, and he has returned seeking assistance. While Kay admires the Don's generosity, Michael understands suggests that everything comes with a price. The chapter concludes with a visit to Genco Abendondo, who is on his deathbed. On the way, Don Corleone tells Michael to talk to him after completing college because he has a plan. Don Corleone stays by Genco's side as he passes away. Later, the Don appoints Tom Hogan as the new consigliere, breaking tradition as Tom is young and not Sicilian. Tom travels to California to meet with Jack Waltz, the movie producer obstructing Johnny's career. Tom initiates negotiations by implying a potential labor strike by the movie union, but Waltz does not take it seriously. After further discussions and investigations, Waltz invites Tom to his country house for dinner. Despite the negotiations, Waltz ultimately refuses to cast Johnny in the movie. Meanwhile, the Don's enforcer, Paulie Gotto, locates the two men who attack Bonacera's daughter and beats them severely with the help of two other men. Chapter 2. In this chapter, Tom is back in New York and making preparations for a meeting with Virgil Sollazzo. Don Corleone briefs Tom on how to handle Jack Waltz, a movie producer who has been obstructing Johnny Fontana's career. One morning, Waltz wakes up to a gruesome sight. The head of his prized racehorse is found in his bed. Realizing the message from Don Corleone, Waltz finally succumbs and decides to cast Johnny in his movie. Don Corleone and Tom discuss the impending meeting with Sollazzo, who plans to request money and immunity to establish a narcotics operation. While the Don is initially inclined to refuse, both Tom and Sonny believe it could be a profitable venture. However, during the meeting, the Don rejects Sollazzo's plan, as he considers narcotics a dirty business. He emphasizes that gambling, the Don's primary source of income, is seen as a more acceptable vice by politicians. Sonny's over-eagerness during the meeting engages the Don. 3 months pass, and just before Christmas, Tom is leaving his office when he is forcefully abducted by Sollazzo and two other men. Meanwhile, Michael and Kay have decided to get married during Christmas week. They both understand that Michael will have to distance himself from his family. While staying at their New York hotel, they read in the newspaper that Don Corleone has been shot. Michael calls Sonny to inquire about their father's condition and learns that Vito is alive and recovering, but Tom has been kidnapped. This marks the first time in the past decade that the Corleone family faces such a direct threat. Sonny has taken charge of the family during this crisis and suspects that Sollazzo orchestrated the shooting, possibly with the support of another rival family. Chapter 3. Sollazzo and his men have taken Tom to a basement apartment. Sollazzo informs Tom that he has killed Don Corleone and instructs him to approach Sonny, who is now acting as the head of the family, with the original offer. If the Corleone family refuses, the Tartaglias, who are supporting Sollazzo, will start a war. Tom realizes the truth behind Sollazzo's words: no one wants a war, and as the consigliere, it is his duty to present the offer to Sonny. Just as Tom agrees to carry the message to Sonny, they receive news that Don Corleone survived the shooting. Sollazzo decides not to release Tom. Chapter 4. Michael arrives at his father's house, where Tom's wife is anxiously awaiting news about her husband. Sonny and Tessio are in the Don's office, compiling a list of men to be killed. Sonny explains that if they had killed the Don, he would have cooperated with Sollazzo and the other families to maintain the status quo. However, since the Don survived, Sonny plans to assassinate Sollazzo and the heads of the Tartaglia family. Tom is eventually returned to the family, and after embracing his wife, he enters the Don's office. Michael realizes that he, Sonny, and Tom have all learned valuable lessons about conducting business from their father. Chapter 5. Sonny and Tom discuss their course of action. Tom advises Sonny against targeting all the men on the kill list, emphasizing that the Don would have viewed the situation as purely business. Tom suggests focusing on a strategic response rather than acting out of personal outrage. When Sonny questions Tom's loyalty to the Don, it becomes evident that Tom harbors a desire to kill the men, but is willing to set aside his emotions to honor the Don's wishes. Tom recommends negotiating and making a deal if necessary, with the intention of sorting everything out with the other families once the Don recovers. Sonny seeks advice on what to do if the Don dies, and Tom suggests that Sonny align with Sollozzo and the Tartaglias in the drug business while waiting for an opportune moment. Tom notes that with the Don's passing, much of the Corleone family's influence will fade, and the other families will support the Tartaglias in a potential war. Sonny issues orders to everyone, assigning Michael the task of finding Luca Brasi, who has gone missing. Tom protests Michael's involvement, and Sonny agrees, instructing Michael to stay home and keep trying to reach Luca via phone. Chapter 6. In this chapter, Clemenza, the corporeggione in charge, receives orders to kill Paulie Gotto, who betrayed Don Corleone to Sollozzo. Clemenza decides to carry out the hit himself, as Paulie's betrayal is not only against the Don, but also a personal betrayal to him, as he had mentored Paulie. Clemenza contemplates whom to promote to the position of bottom man, or hitman, that Paulie held. He selects Rocco Lamponi and contacts him, instructing him to come to his house. Clemenza also devises a plan for Paulie to pick him up, with Lampone as their companion. While Clemenza could simply kill Paulie, he chooses to follow the established protocol and ensure that Paulie's body is found to demonstrate the Corleone family's strength. Clemenza informs Paulie that they are searching for a safe apartment, explaining that Sonny wants to go to war, using the term "go to the mattresses." Paulie believes the story, as he is already thinking about the money he may receive from Sollozzo for providing information. At the end of the day, on their way home, Clemenza has Paulie stop on the side of the road. From the back seat, Rocco shoots Paulie, and they leave his body in the car while discarding the gun in the swamp. They then switch to another car that has been prepared for them and drive back to Clemenza's home. Chapter 7. Luca Brasi, working undercover for Don Corleone, has been gathering information about the situation with Sollozzo and the Tartaglias. No one else in the Corleone family is aware of his role. Luca begins spending time at a strip club owned by Bruno Tartaglia and becomes involved with a woman who works there. He expresses his dissatisfaction with the Corleone family, and the Tartaglias eventually offer him a job. Luca plays along for a while before revealing that he is not interested. During this time, Luca reports to the Don that he has not found any evidence of Sollozzo or his proposed narcotics operation. However, on the night before Don Corleone is shot, the Tartaglias ask Luca to come to the club after hours to meet a friend. When he arrives, Sollozzo is already there and pretends to offer Luca a job. Sollozzo and Bruno restrain Luca while another man strangles him. Sollozzo emphasizes that the body must not be discovered yet. Chapter 8. The day after Don Corleone is shot, Michael is at the family home, answering phones and relaying messages to Sonny. Tom is working on setting up negotiations with Sollozzo. Fredo remains sedated, and Michael compares his condition to the trauma-stricken soldiers he encountered during the war. Kay calls Michael, and they make plans to meet that evening. Kay finally grasps the full reality of the Corleone family's business. Sonny, Tom, Michael, Clemenza, and Tessio gather to discuss Sollozzo's next move. Michael suspects that Sollozzo has another plan in motion. They speculate that Sollozzo may have gained the support of other families, which would force the Corleones to accept his proposal. The fate of Luca Brasi remains unknown until the end of the chapter, when a fish wrapped in Brasi's bulletproof vest is delivered to them, an old Sicilian message indicating Brasi's death. Chapter 9. Michael goes into New York that night to meet Kay and visit his father at the hospital. When Kay asks about their wedding plans, Michael advises her to return to Hanover and reconsider getting involved with the family. They part ways, and it is revealed that Kay will not see Michael for the next 3 years, though she is unaware of it at this moment. Upon reaching the hospital, Michael finds it deserted. Tessio's men and the police are gone, leaving no one to protect the Don. The nurse informs Michael that the police made Tessio's men leave, and then the police themselves were called away. Michael calls Sonny to update him on the situation. Sonny instructs Michael to lock the door and stay with the Don until he can send men for assistance. However, instead of following Sonny's orders, Michael and the nurse move the Don to a different room. The Don is conscious and asks what is happening, and Michael reassures him, telling him not to be afraid. Despite his weakened state, the Don reflects that he is not afraid, as people have been trying to kill him since he was 12 years old. Chapter 10. In this chapter, Michael waits outside the hospital to ensure that Sollazzo's men see that the Don is guarded. Enzo, the man for whom Nazarene sought help at the beginning of the book, visits the Don and stays with Michael outside the hospital. A black car drives by slowly, and a few minutes later, the police arrive. Captain McCluskey, the man in charge, attempts to arrest Michael, but he accuses McCluskey of being Sollazzo's man. McCluskey responds by striking Michael with great force, breaking his cheekbone. Shortly after, Clemenz's lawyer arrives with private detectives hired to protect the Don. Michael tells the lawyer that he slipped when asked about the assault. He passes out and wakes up the next morning in the hospital with his jaw wired shut. Tom informs Michael that Bruno Tartaglia has been killed, and now Sollazzo wants to negotiate. Together, they return to the Don's house. Sonny receives a message from Sollazzo, who wants Michael to meet and negotiate with him. Sollazzo guarantees Michael's safety, and the Tartaglia family has agreed to let go of Bruno's death and continue working with the Corleones. Sonny wants to kill Sollazzo, but Tom points out the complication. McCluskey, the police captain, is on Sollazzo's payroll and will act as his bodyguard. Killing McCluskey would lead to a massive police crackdown on their operations. Michael suggests that he attend the meeting and kill both Sollazzo and McCluskey. Sonny laughs, acknowledging that Michael is finally revealing his true self. Tom agrees that it's a logical plan, and they recognize that no one else can get close enough to Sollazzo to carry out the assassination. They decide that Sonny will provide a gun for Michael to use. After killing the men, Michael will immediately disappear to Sicily without saying goodbye to anyone, including Kay. Michael agrees to the plan. Chapter 11. Captain McCluskey is in his office, engaged in bookmaker business. He is corrupt and has been on the take for a long time, following in his father's footsteps. McCluskey considers his actions as clean graft, providing protection in his area of the city for those who pay for it. He leaves his office to meet Sollazzo for their negotiation with Michael later that night. Meanwhile, as Michael prepares for the assassination, Tom arranges his travel to Sicily. They are aware that once Michael kills Sollazzo and McCluskey, a full-scale war will break out between the Corleones and the other New York families. Despite the impending conflict, they believe this is the best way to handle the situation and avoid further trouble. They discover the location of Sollazzo's meeting and arrange for a gun to be placed in the bathroom, allowing Michael to retrieve and use it. After carrying out the killings, Michael will drop the gun and leave. Tessio will pick him up, and Michael will then depart directly for Sicily. They anticipate that he will remain there for at least a year, depending on the Don's recovery. Michael finds the gun in the bathroom and, although not everything goes exactly as planned, he successfully kills Sollazzo and McCluskey. Tessio picks him up, and within a few hours, he is on his way to Sicily. With the death of Captain McCluskey, the police declare war on all illegal activities involving the families. The other families, angered by the impact of the Corleones' troubles on their own business, retaliate by initiating a war against the Corleones. The conflict begins with a bomb exploding near the Corleone family home, resulting in the deaths of two Corleone button men. It is 1946, marking the start of what will be known as the Five Families War. Chapter 12. In this chapter, Johnny Fontana is having dinner with a young actress who rejects his advances. He calls his first wife, Ginny, and asks if he can come over. Johnny spends the night at Ginny's house and has breakfast with her and his two daughters in the morning. Afterward, he picks up Tom Hogan at the airport. During their meeting, Tom informs Johnny that Jack Waltz is working to ensure that he doesn't receive an Academy Award for his role in Waltz's movie. However, Tom reveals that Don Corleone can ensure Johnny's victory. Tom also proposes that Johnny becomes a movie producer with funding from a bank lined up by the Don. Johnny agrees, but he stipulates that he will only accept requests from the Don himself, not from Tom or Sonny. On their way back, Tom ponders whether Johnny will understand what the Don wants from him without the Don explicitly making the request. Excited by the opportunity, Johnny returns to Ginny's house and begins reaching out to industry contacts to establish connections for his future endeavors. He also calls Jack Waltz to express his gratitude for the role, knowing that Waltz will be infuriated once he discovers his betrayal. Lastly, Johnny thinks of a way to please Don Corleone and calls Nino Valenti, his former singing partner, who is now a truck driver. Johnny offers Nino a plane ticket and a job working for him, and Nino accepts the offer. Chapter 13. Johnny and Nino are working on a record together. Johnny is determined to help Nino succeed in Hollywood and takes him to a party called the Lonely Hearts Club. The parties, organized by Jack Waltz, but held at other people's houses, are attended by older Hollywood actresses who are tired of competing with younger starlets. Young actors are encouraged to attend and engage in sexual activities with the actresses in exchange for career advancement. Johnny takes Nino to the party, where a famous actress from Nino's childhood performs oral sex on him during a movie screening. Nino is disgusted with the party, revealing that he doesn't want to be a part of Hollywood and only wants to be a singer. Pretending to be drunk, Nino expresses his true feelings to Johnny, who understands his sentiments. When they learn about the shooting of The Godfather, Johnny wants to go to New York, but Tom advises against it. Nino informs Johnny that The Godfather had said it was his destiny to be an artist, leading Johnny to realize that The Godfather orchestrated his path. Johnny begins production on his first movie, but the union representative demands $50,000, claiming that The Godfather's influence has diminished due to his injury. Tom advises Johnny not to pay. 2 days later, the union representative is found dead at his home. Johnny asks Nino to accompany him to the Academy Awards, knowing that he won't win, but wanting a true friend by his side. Nino reflects on the fact that he is the person Johnny feels closest to. Despite the odds, Johnny wins the Academy Award, and Nino is there to support him. Nino remains sober throughout the night so that Johnny can celebrate. Eventually, Nino carries Johnny out of a party after the guests suggest that Johnny and the female award winner had sex in front of them. Chapter 14. Chapter 14 delves into the past of Vito Corleone, previously known as Vito Andolini. When Vito was 12 years old, his father was murdered by the local mafia chief in Corleone, Sicily. Fearing for his life, Vito is smuggled to America to escape the men seeking revenge. Upon arriving, he changes his last name to Corleone as a homage to his hometown. Vito lives with the Abendondo family in Hal's Kitchen, New York City, and works at their grocery store. At the age of 18, Vito marries Carmela, a Sicilian girl, and they have their first child, Santino Sonny. 2 years later, in the neighborhood, a man named Fanucci collects protection money from local businesses. including the Abbandando store. During World War I, Fanucci becomes a part owner of the store, leading to Vito's dismissal. Struggling to find employment, Vito blames Fanucci for his misfortunes. One night, Vito receives a package of guns from his neighbor Peter Clemenza and holds onto them until Clemenza can retrieve them. The two become friends, and Clemenza involves Vito in a rug theft. Vito realizes they are stealing the rug when a policeman shows up, but the situation is defused without incident. Following this, Clemenza invites Vito to participate in Appland robbery, which goes smoothly. However, Fanucci demands a cut of their stolen money. Surprisingly, Clemenza and Tessio agree to pay Fanucci, but Vito decides to negotiate with Fanucci instead. Vito gives Fanucci a portion of the money, promising to pay the rest later. After Fanucci leaves, Vito shoots him in his apartment, disposing of the gun afterward. Although Vito expects to be questioned by the police, they do not pursue the matter as they are relieved that Fanucci is dead. Vito continues to keep a low profile, avoiding taking over the business of collecting protection money. One day, Carmela brings a woman who is being evicted to Vito for help. He intervenes on her behalf, offering to pay 6 months' rent in advance to her landlord. Initially hesitant, the landlord eventually accepts the offer and seeks forgiveness for his disrespectful behavior. Vito's reputation as a man of respect grows, with business owners offering him money as a sign of respect. People seek his help, and he provides protection to businesses in the neighborhood, sharing the profits with Tessio and Clemenza. Vito also ventures into the olive oil business with his childhood friend Genco Abbandando. When traditional methods fail, Vito resorts to more forceful tactics to eliminate competitors, such as arson and murder. During Prohibition, Vito becomes involved with smugglers and protects Italian families operating speakeasies. He establishes contacts within the police and legal system, gaining influence and accumulating favors owed to him. As the Great Depression hits, Vito becomes known as Don Corleone. Despite the widespread hardship, he and his associates thrive. Vito earns a reputation for his charitable acts and takes care of his people. He offers guidance to individuals and gains political power by influencing their votes. He also sponsors college educations for promising young Italian men, ensuring their rise to positions of influence. After the end of Prohibition, Vito seeks to expand his business by partnering with Maranzano, the gambling kingpin in Manhattan. However, Maranzano refuses, sparking a war in the criminal underworld in 1933. Though Maranzano initially holds the advantage with powerful contacts and the support of the Tartaglia family, Vito evens the playing field. Luca Brasi eliminates the men sent by Al Capone, who supports Maranzano. Vito sends a message to Capone, warning him not to interfere, and Capone concedes. Vito uses Clemenza's army to disrupt Maranzano's operations and ultimately sends Tessio to assassinate him. Ending the war, Maranzano's businesses are absorbed into the Corleone operation, expanding their interests to include gambling and unions. During this time, Vito and Carmela have 3 more children, Fredo, Michael, and Connie. Tom Hogan lives with them, and Sonny, now 16 years old, starts getting involved in criminal activities. Vito recognizes Sonny's potential and begins training him to become a future Don with the help of Abbandando. For 2 years, Sonny is mentored by Clemenza and his father, showing promise in the business. Vito realizes that it would be beneficial for all criminal factions in New York to reach a peaceful agreement. He decides to eliminate the lesser organizations, reducing the number of factions. However, during this process, he is shot by one of these factions. Sonny takes over during Vito's recovery and proves to be adept at handling the war against the other factions. Luca Brasi also gains notoriety for his ruthless loyalty to the Corleone family. By 1937, Don Corleone achieves the peace he sought. Looking toward the future, Vito sees the impending World War and seizes the opportunity for business growth. His influence extends to various aspects, including ration cards and draft avoidance. Everything goes well for the Corleones until his son Michael surprises him by volunteering to fight in the war. Vito decides to move his family out of the city and purchases a property in Long Beach, which he intends to turn into a crime-free community. Sonny deals with scammers attempting to defraud them, displaying effectiveness but lacking finesse. Nevertheless, Long Beach becomes nearly crime-free, and life continues profitably and uneventfully until the arrival of Sollozzo, which leads to the shooting that lands Don Corleone in Chapter 15. Two detectives visit Kay Adams at her parents' home in New Hampshire. They inquire about Michael's whereabouts, mentioning that a police captain had an altercation with him before being shot 3 weeks prior. Kay informs them that she hasn't heard from Michael. After the detectives leave, Kay's parents reveal that they were aware of her relationship with Michael but had been waiting for her to share the news. Kay decides to visit the Corleone home in Long Beach, where Tom Hogan informs her that they don't know Michael's whereabouts. Tom mentions that Michael is laying low due to the fear of being accused of Captain McCluskey's murder. Carmela, Don Corleone's wife, enters the room and scolds Tom for not offering Kay coffee and a ride home. Over coffee, Carmela implies that Michael did commit the murder and tells Kay that he will be gone for a few years, suggesting that Kay should find someone else to marry. Chapter 16. Carlo Rizzi is discontented with his life, expecting to live in Long Beach with the Corleone family and be involved in their business after marrying Connie. However, he finds himself in charge of a bookmaking operation on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Connie, who is 7 months pregnant, plans to visit her recovering father, but Carlo beats her, causing severe facial injuries. Deciding not to go, Connie stays home. Carlo leaves for work, and Sonny, on his way to Long Beach, stops by their house and witnesses Connie's injuries. Enraged, Sonny confronts Carlo at the bookmaker's office, publicly beating him on the street. Carlo submits entirely, and after Sonny departs, Carlo vomits out of fear. One of the men at the bookmakers informs Rocco Lomponi, who contacts Tom Hogan through Clemenza. Tom worries that the Tartaglia family, or other rival families, may hear about Sonny's presence in the city and attempt to kill him. One of the men working at the bookmaking operation is an informant for the Tartaglias, and he contacts them about the incident. However, by the time this information reaches the higher ranks of the Tartaglia family, Sonny has safely returned home to Long Beach. Chapter 17. In 1947, the Corleone family is engaged in a war with the other Mafia families in New York. The situation initially becomes more complicated with the murder of Captain McCluskey, as the police seek retribution against the Mafia. However, once the police learn of McCluskey's involvement with Sollozzo and the narcotics business, their interest in seeking justice for him diminishes. The police view narcotics as dirty business compared to their own participation in clean graft. The balance is eventually restored with the police, but the Corleone family faces a significant problem. They are outmatched by their adversaries. Don Corleone is still recovering. Sonny is in charge, but Clemenza and Tessio have aged, and Tom is not suited to be a wartime consigliere. Sonny cannot replace any of them due to authority limitations and the potential for betrayal. The Corleone business suffers greatly during the war, as the other families exert pressure on their existing operations. Don Corleone is fully aware of the situation, including Michael's role in killing Sollozzo and McCluskey before leaving the country. Sonny eventually decides that they must go to war, planning to assassinate the heads of the rival families. However, before they can act, all the family heads disappear underground. Chapter 18. Amerigo Bonacera, the undertaker, who previously sought Don Corleone's help in avenging his daughter's assault, receives a call from Tom Hogan. Tom informs him that the Don needs a favor, and Bonacera agrees. Aware of the ongoing war between the Corleones and the other families, Bonacera anticipates being asked to dispose of an important person's dead body due to his profession. Later that evening, he waits alone in his office. Clemenza and his men arrive, ensuring there are no witnesses, and Don Corleone enters alongside a body on a stretcher. When the sheet is unveiled, Bonacera is shocked to see Sonny Corleone's bullet-ridden face. Don Corleone requests that Bonacera make Sonny presentable so that Carmela doesn't have to witness the damage. Chapter 19. The narrative takes a step back in time to recount the events surrounding Sonny's death. Sonny has been actively involved in the war with the rival families, assassinating their low-level members and launching attacks from all sides. Although the Corleone family remains in a disadvantaged position, Sonny believes his actions have been successful as the other families have not responded with violence. As a consequence of the ongoing war, Carlo Rizzi's bookmaking operation has been shut down. Carlo, increasingly consumed by drinking, becomes more abusive towards Connie. One night, he beats her severely, prompting her to call Sonny and request a car to bring her home. Sonny becomes furious and decides to drive to the city alone. At a toll booth, Sonny's car is blocked, and he is shot by a group of men. Sonny's men, following in another car, witness the incident and call the Don's house from a nearby payphone. Tom Hogan answers the phone and learns of Sonny's death. He realizes his mistake in assuming that the silence from the other families indicated complacency when, in fact, they were planning this attack all along. Before waking up the Don to deliver the news, Tom contacts Tessio and Clemenza, then proceeds to the office to pour himself a drink. Don Corleone, dressed for the first time since the shooting, enters the office, inquiring about the commotion in the house at midnight. Once Clemenza and Tessio join them, Tom informs them of Sonny's death. Immediately, the Don issues orders that there will be no retaliation or violence in response to Sonny's shooting. He declares that all business activities will be suspended until after Sonny's funeral. Don Corleone instructs Tom to contact Amerigo Bonacera and inform him that his services will be required. Chapter 20. Don Corleone has fully recovered and resumed his position as the head of the Corleone family following Sonny's death. Despite the expectations of retribution from the other families, the Don surprises everyone except Tom Hogan by proposing peace instead. He goes a step further and suggests a peace treaty among all the families across the United States. To assure the other families of his sincerity, Don Corleone hires the Boccicchio family as hostages. The Boccicchio family, known for their waste management business, acts as a neutral party in Mafia meetings. They provide a representative from each side as a surety during meetings between two individuals who don't trust each other. If one of them is killed during the meeting, the other side's representative will be killed in retaliation by the aggrieved family. The offending family would then face the vengeance of the Boccicchio family. By hiring the Boccicchios, Don Corleone demonstrates his commitment to peace, and the other families feel assured of their safety. Representatives from various families across the country attend the meeting, including Carlo Tremonti from the southern United States, Joseph Zalucci from Detroit, Frank Falcone and Anthony Molinari from the West Coast, Vincent Forlenza from Cleveland, and Dominic Panza from Boston. Additionally, representatives from all the New York families are present, such as Anthony Strachey, Otilio Cuneo, Emilio Barzini, and Philip Tartaglia. Tartaglia, despite his actions against the Corleone family, does not receive the expected respect from the others. His power during the conflict stemmed from Salazzo and later the Barzini family, and his failure to eliminate Don Corleone caused problems for all the families involved. Don Corleone opens the meeting by expressing gratitude for everyone's attendance. He acknowledges that both he and Tartaglia have lost sons and considers them even. He emphasizes that no business will be conducted until they achieve a peace agreement. Barzini raises objections, arguing that Don Corleone's refusal to do business hampers the families, particularly due to his extensive political influence. He accuses Don Corleone of denying them a favor, which is a significant violation of the code among the families. In response, Don Corleone states that he will lend his influence to support the narcotics venture, but will not directly participate in the operation. Although the families acknowledge the drug business as unfavorable, they recognize the challenge of stopping it. The meeting is lengthy and fruitful, concluding with Philip Tartaglia seeking assurance from Don Corleone that there will be no acts of vengeance. Don Corleone pledges on his honor that he will never seek vengeance and calls for unity among the families against external threats. He also expresses his desire to bring Michael back home and warns that any harm befalling Michael will trigger his pursuit of revenge. After returning home, Don Corleone instructs Tom to gather Tessio and Clemenza for a meeting in his office. He urges them to drop the pursuit of Sonny's death and prioritize cooperation with the other families until Michael's safe return. He plans to fortify the mall where the families reside, acquiring surrounding land to enhance security. Don Corleone also intends for Tessio and Clemenza's factions to absorb Sonny's soldiers. Tom is assigned to check on Freddy's business in Las Vegas. After Tessio and Clemenza leave, Don Corleone and Tom discuss the day's meeting. Tom admits his confusion regarding the Don's unconventional decisions. The Don reassures him that he will uphold his word and adhere to the Don's code, emphasizing that things will be resolved in due course, with the primary goal of bringing Michael back home. The Don has received information that Barzini is closing in on Michael's location. By the end of their conversation, Tom realizes that the Don has a plan that he cannot yet comprehend. Chapter 21. Even after a year, there is still no ideal solution to bring Michael back safely without the risk of murder charges. A breakthrough arises when Felix Bocchicchio, who has been sentenced to death for the murder of 3 men, enters the picture. Don Corleone arranges for Felix to take the blame for Michael's killings of Salazzo and McCluskey in exchange for a pension for Felix's wife and children. The plan succeeds, and following Felix Bocchicchio's execution, Don Corleone issues the order to bring Michael home. Chapter 22. Lucy Mancini, Sonny's former lover, now resides in Las Vegas and works at the hotel managed by Fredo. She has been living in Las Vegas for 18 months and provides information about Fredo to Tom and the Don. During her time in Las Vegas, Lucy befriends Jules Siegel, a doctor with offices in the hotel. Their friendship eventually turns into a sexual relationship. Jules informs Lucy that he knows a surgeon who can address a medical issue she has. He then confides in her about his own background and why he ended up working in Las Vegas. In the past, he performed illegal abortions in New York and was apprehended. However, Tom Hogan owed a favor to one of Jules' friends, resulting in the Corleone family having his charges dropped and securing him a job in Las Vegas. 2 weeks later, Lucy undergoes the operation, and when Jules visits her, he encounters Johnny Fontana and Nino Valenti. Observing Johnny's hoarse voice, Jules convinces him to allow an examination. After examining Johnny's throat, Jules identifies the presence of warts and offers to remove them. Additionally, Jules confronts Nino about his drinking problem, and Nino openly admits that he is deliberately drinking himself to death. Chapter 23. Michael has spent 5 months in Sicily and is gradually gaining insight into his father, the other Mafia members, and his mother. He is residing with Don Tomasino, a local Mafia chief, and his true identity remains concealed. During his stay, Michael learns about Sicilian culture and history, discovering that the customs followed by the Mafia families in the United States originated in Sicily. He often takes walks accompanied by 2 shepherds who serve as armed bodyguards. On some occasions, he walks all the way to Corleone, his father's hometown. Michael's face still bears the lasting damage inflicted by McCluskey's punch. Despite the opportunity for surgery, he declines, as his appearance aids his assimilation into the local population, where similar conditions are prevalent due to lack of medical care. One day, 7 months into his stay, Michael and the 2 shepherds venture into the mountains beyond Corleone. While enjoying lunch, they encounter a group of local girls. Michael is struck by love at first sight when one of the girls accidentally collides with him, an experience the shepherds refer to as the thunderbolt. The local men present recognize this expression and its significance. Curiosity piqued, they visit a nearby village and have wine at a local cafe, hoping to inquire about the girl. However, the cafe owner dismisses their questions. Unbeknownst to them, the girl is his daughter named Apollonia. Rather than leaving, Michael apologizes to the cafe owner and expresses his intention to marry Apollonia. Realizing that Michael is someone of importance who could secure his family's future, the cafe owner invites him to their house on Sunday afternoon. Michael visits as invited, bringing gifts that showcase his wealth and seriousness. Eventually, Michael and Apollonia tie the knot. Shortly after their marriage, Michael meets a woman named Filomena, who is aware that his father is Don Corleone. She recounts the story of how Don Corleone saved her life when she encountered Luca Brossi. Filomena, a midwife, was coerced by Luca Brossi to deliver a baby and then burn it in an incinerator. Seeking protection, she sought help from Don Corleone, who shielded her and facilitated her return to Italy with her husband. The morning after Michael's encounter with Filomena, Don Tomasino arrives in Palermo with the news of Sani's assassination. Chapter 24. Apollonia is pregnant, and Michael and Apollonia are preparing to move to another house elsewhere in Sicily. Their marriage has made Michael conspicuous, necessitating their relocation. The plan is for Michael, Apollonia, and the 2 shepherds to depart for their new residence the following morning. The next day, as they are about to leave, Apollonia sits in the driver's seat of the car. Having learned to drive, she intends to move the car closer to where Michael is standing. One of the shepherds discreetly leaves the yard, while the other remains with Apollonia near the car. Apollonia starts the car to pull it forward, but suddenly, it explodes. Both Apollonia and the shepherd are killed in the blast. Michael recovers in a secure hideout in the mountains, and everyone believes he has perished. A week elapses since the explosion, and Michael decides that he wants to return home and reunite with his family. After 3 months, he manages to fly back to New York. Chapter 25. Kay has completed her college degree and is now working as a grade school teacher. One day, she decides to take a train to New York City but isn't in the mood for shopping. Instead, she calls Carmela Corleone, who informs her that Michael has been back home for 6 months. Encouraged by Mrs. Corleone, Kay takes a taxi to the family house, despite her reservations about speaking to Michael. Mrs. Corleone invites her inside for coffee, and they engage in conversation while awaiting Michael's return. When Michael arrives, they reconcile, and he takes Kay to his brownstone in the city. Kay and Michael make love, and afterward, she musters the courage to ask him if he committed the murders he was accused of. Michael counters by asking if she needs to know the answer before they marry, to which she responds negatively. He assures her of his seriousness about marriage, but emphasizes that he won't involve her in his business dealings. Michael reveals his plan to legitimize the Corleone family's business entirely within 5 years. He wants to marry Kay to raise their children as Americans, away from the family and the Sicilian way of life. However, for the time being, they will have to reside in the family compound. Kay now fully comprehends the nature of Michael's occupation. Chapter 26. Nino Valenti continues to drink himself into self-destruction. Johnny Fontana is present when Nino collapses at a blackjack table. The pit boss informs them that it has been occurring for some time. Jules Siegel arrives to examine Nino and reveals that he is in a mild diabetic coma due to his diabetes. Jules suggests that Johnny have Nino admitted to a mental hospital. He also proposes that once Nino wakes up, Johnny, Lucy, and himself confront Nino about his behavior. Johnny delays making a decision, causing Jules to become upset. Johnny promises to consider it. Johnny Fontana is in Las Vegas because Michael Corleone is arriving with Tom Hogan for a meeting. Lucy and Jules, now engaged, will also be present at the dinner. Nino regains consciousness and announces his intention to change his behavior, clarifying that he isn't jealous of a situation involving two women and Johnny that occurred a year ago. A year prior, Johnny had recovered from a recommended throat operation by Jules, but hadn't yet attempted singing. He visited his ex-wife and children, but the encounter with Virginia was tense, and his daughters left. He then drove to Palm Springs with Nino and two young women. While Nino engaged in a sexual encounter, Johnny sat at the piano and tested his voice. He was ecstatic to discover that his voice was back, deeper, richer, and more mature. Johnny and Nino sang all of Johnny's old songs, with the girls as their audience. Johnny now realizes that Nino's lack of jealousy isn't about the girls or Johnny's regained voice. It's about Nino's indifference toward everything, contrasting with Johnny's passion for singing. Chapter 27. Michael Corleone, Tom Hogan, and Albert Neri, Michael's newly appointed button man, arrive in Las Vegas by plane. Fredo meets them and offers to contact Mo Green, the co-owner of the hotel. However, Michael instructs Fredo to call Johnny, Nino, Lucy, and Jules instead, indicating they will address the matter of Mo Green later. Michael discloses the Corleone family's plan to exit the olive oil business and fully transition to Las Vegas, although the process may take several years. They intend to acquire Mo Green's shares in the hotel, which surprises Fredo. Michael also extends a standing singing contract to Johnny at the hotel and assures Jules that he can secure him a position at a new hospital being constructed in Las Vegas. In the meantime, Jules will serve as the medical director for their existing hotels, a fact unbeknownst to everyone except Tom. Additionally, Michael offers Lucy a new job. They discuss Nino's situation, but before reaching a decision, Mo Green enters the room accompanied by two bodyguards. Known for his violent temperament, Mo's presence prompts everyone except Michael, Mo, Tom, and Fredo to leave. Mo informs Michael that he refuses to sell his shares in the hotel to them, asserting that Don Corleone no longer possesses significant power. Michael questions Mo's audacity, alluding to his public mistreatment of Fredo. Michael emphasizes that Don Corleone is semi-retired and he now runs the Corleone family. Both Mo and Fredo depart, subdued. The following morning, Mo sends a message stating that he won't sell his shares at any price. Michael visits Nino and then departs from Las Vegas. But before doing so, he asks Al Neri if he has made Mo Green, to which Al confirms that he has. Chapter 28. Michael has been back home for 3 years and married to Kay for 2. During this time, he has gained a comprehensive understanding of the extensive family business, which surpasses his initial expectations. Kay is now pregnant with their second child and has settled into their life together. She always welcomes Michael at the airport upon his return from trips. Each morning, she observes Carmela Corleone leaving for Mass from her window, as Michael's mother actively attempts to convert Kay to Catholicism. When Kay questions Carmela's daily religious practices, she explains that she prays for her husband to be saved from damnation after death. Kay's relationship with Connie is also blossoming, with Connie teaching her authentic Sicilian cooking, and they spend time together regularly. Kay only truly comprehends the tension Connie feels between Carlo and the family when Michael discloses the role they played in Sonny's death. Kay asks Michael to provide reassurance to Connie, but Michael states that such matters are not openly discussed within their family. The entire family wants Michael to undergo facial surgery, but he resists until Kay suggests doing it for the sake of their children. Upon returning to Long Beach, Michael convenes a meeting with the Don, Tom, Carlo, Clemenza, and Tessio. The atmosphere is tense because the Don has declared his semi-retirement, and Clemenza and Tessio desire to establish their own families. Michael updates them on the situation in Las Vegas and advises Clemenza and Tessio to trust him and exercise patience. He informs them that if, after a year, they still wish to pursue separate paths and form their own families, they will have the opportunity to do so. Michael reveals that the Corleone family is planning to relocate to Las Vegas. Even when pressed by Tessio, the Don remains steadfast in his commitment to not seek vengeance against Barzini or Tartaglia. After the meeting, Michael, Tom, and the Don have a private conversation. Tom questions why he hasn't been kept informed about Michael's actions, and while Michael is surprised that Tom has discerned aspects of their plan, the Don isn't. However, Michael still refuses to involve Tom in the plan. After Tom departs, Michael discusses his intention to avenge Sonny and Apollonia by killing Barzini. He reveals that he has identified the shepherd who planted the bomb and that the individual now resides in upstate New York. Michael assures the Don that this decision doesn't involve him and that he plays no role in it, even if he were to oppose it. Over the next year, Mo Green is killed. Albert Neri disappears from New York for a month, and upon his return, he receives a valuable livelihood from the Corleone family. Chapter 29. Before Michael can fully execute his plan, Don Vito Corleone passes away from a heart attack in his garden. At the funeral, Michael asserts that the family will be relocating from New York and establishing their base of operations in Las Vegas. It has been a decade since Connie's wedding at the house. The following morning, Michael holds a meeting with Tessio Clemenza, Tom, Rocco Lomponi, Albert Neri, and Carlo Rizzi. They are aware that the Corleone family's political influence, which previously granted them significant power, has considerably diminished with the Don's demise. They also acknowledge that Michael is not yet the new Don and must prove himself to them. Initially, they do not address him with the same respect they offered the Don. Michael urges them to be patient for a few weeks, promising that decisions will be made thereafter. Tom remains after the meeting, and Michael confesses that he needed more time to solidify his political connections before his father's passing. Tom admits that he believes he understands the plan, and they discuss the likelihood that someone, most likely Barzini, will attempt to kill Michael, with someone close to him betraying him to facilitate the assassination. They suspect that Clemenza, Tessio, or Carlo may be the potential traitor. They realize that the individual responsible for arranging the meeting between Michael and Barzini will be the betrayer. Ultimately, Tessio is the one who establishes contact and betrays Michael. Chapter 30. Albert Neri dons his police uniform, which he hasn't worn in years. At one point, he worked as a policeman, but constantly clashed with his superiors. Towards the end of his police career, He is charged with excessive force and manslaughter, resulting in a prison sentence. His father-in-law leverages his connections with the Corleone family to ensure Albert's protection while behind bars. Clemenza learns about Albert Neri and suggests him to Tom as a potential member of the Corleone family. Michael extends an offer to Albert, who gladly accepts. Michael brings him to a family dinner, and the Don approves of him. Initially, Michael intends for Albert to work for the family in Las Vegas, but Neri decides to remain with them in New York. Within a year, it becomes evident that Michael has found a man loyal to him, akin to how Luca Brasi was loyal to his father. On this day, Albert wears his old police uniform, determined not to disappoint Michael Corleone. Chapter 31. Moving day arrives in Long Beach, and the trucks are loaded with the house's belongings. Michael sends Connie and the children to the airport, while he sends Kay and their children to visit her parents in New Hampshire. He keeps Carlo with him, stating that Carlo will join his family in Las Vegas in a few days. After Connie's departure, Michael instructs Carlo to go to his house and wait for his call. Carlo senses that something significant is transpiring as he observes the bustling activity in the mall, but he remains unaware of the specifics. Michael and Tom discuss the need to initiate their plan. Meanwhile, in upstate New York, the shepherd who planted the car bomb is shot while at work. Rocco Lamponi kills Philip Tartaglia, and Albert Neri, dressed in his police uniform, shoots Barzini in the street. Tom escorts Tessio to a car accompanied by armed men. Tessio realizes that he has been discovered, accepts his fate, and enters the car with the men. Carlo Rizzi faces Michael, Tom, and Rocco Lamponi. Michael reveals his knowledge that Carlo was working for Barzini and intentionally abused Connie to provoke Sonny. He informs Carlo that he will not kill his sister's husband and leads him to a car destined for the airport. However, once inside the vehicle, Carlo is strangled by Clemenza. Simultaneously, Lamponi and their soldiers take action against those who sought to encroach upon the Corleone family's territories. In a single day, Michael Corleone restores the reputation of the Corleone family and ascends to even greater power. His strategic prowess earns him respect, and he gains influence as the couple regimes of the Barzini and Tartaglia families align with the Corleones. Kay and Connie return home, with Connie accusing Michael of murdering Carlo. Kay recognizes the truth and observes that the men now regard Michael as the Don. Chapter 32. A year has passed, and Michael Corleone has become the most powerful Don in the United States. He decides to proceed with his plan of shutting down the family's New York operation and relocating to the western part of the country. Connie, who has already remarried, informs Kay that her previous accusations against Michael were merely a result of hysteria. Kay undergoes a conversion to Catholicism and finds contentment in living in Nevada with her children. Michael appears to be operating as a more legitimate businessman in their new location, and Kay is relieved to be moving away from New York. On the final morning before their departure, Kay and Carmela Corleone attend church together. During their time at church each morning, Kay allows herself to confront the reality of her husband's life and the lies he has told her. After he deceived her regarding Carlo's death, Kay left Michael. Tom Hogan visited her and disclosed the truth about Carlo's demise, as well as provided her with the necessary information to comprehend Michael's decisions. After a week, Kay reconciled with Michael and began the process of converting to Catholicism. She joins Carmela in attending daily mass, praying for Michael's soul.